Okay, thank you. Um, Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the meeting of the Georges River Local Planning Panel for Thursday, the 21st of March, 2024. My name is Stephen Davies, and I'm the chair of the panel. The panel is currently streaming from the Georges River Councils in McMahon Street, Hurstbourne. The panel members who will make up the panel today are Julie Walsh, I left, our expert panel meeting, Nicholas Skelton, expert panel member, and Fiona Promodu, being the community representative on this panel and also an expert. We are the panel who have been appointed by the Minister for Planning to determine specified development applications, including the development applications that are on the agenda today, in accordance with the requirements of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act. The Georges River Local Planning Panel acknowledge the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of all lands, waters and sky in the Georges River area. We pay our respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who live, work and meet on these lands. I'm required to advise you that under the provisions of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979, this meeting of the panel is being live streamed and will be made available on Council's website. In accordance with the revised meeting protocols, interested parties wishing to make representations for the panel were requested to register a summary of their interests. A total of 4 registrations were received and forwarded to the panel. The panel have reviewed the registration, advised the council officers they wish to hear oral submissions from the following persons who will be called during the course of this meeting in order of the items as published on Council's website. Speaker number 1 in relation to 58A Algernon Street, Oatley, Cameron Jones. Speaker number 2, Yanis Socrates, also for 58 Algernon Street, Oatley. For item number 3 at 37 Endeavour Street, Sans Souci, Mark Raimundo. And number 4, 219 Terry Street, Connells Point, Stephanie Kiorovsky. As required by the Local Planning and Code of Conduct, panel members are required to disclose any conflicts of interest in respect of any matter on the agenda for a panel meeting. The relevant forms as prescribed by the New South Wales Department of Planning have been completed and are tabled for Council to be included on the online minutes of the meeting. No panel member has disclosed any conflict of interest in any matter on today's agenda. The panel have received a complete assessment of reports from Council for the 5 development applications that we'll be considering today. We will deal with each application in order as published on Council's website. I won't read them all through now, but we can start with 58 Algernon Street, Oatley, demolition of existing structures and construction of a Part 2, Part 3-storey dwelling house with an in-ground swimming pool and associated landscaping. All right. Sorry, I should have really taken you through to, as we progress through the matters on the agenda, only those persons who have registered to speak will verbally be able to make representations to the panel. Each person who has registered to speak is requested to limit their presentation to 3 minutes. I would ask those persons that are invited to speak to the panel via Teams that they speak clearly and of a volume that will project into the speakers to assist those viewing the live streaming so that they can hear clearly what is being said. To manage the live streaming process, all speakers should leave their camera and microphone turned off until their turn to speak is called. At this time, I remind these persons that any defamatory, discriminatory, or offensive language used may result in the author being exposed to liability for which Council and the panel take no responsibility. Once we've heard all the oral submissions on a particular application, we will move on to the next application. Members of the public are free to continue to listen to the broadcast. The determination of the application will be made in a closed session, which is not live streamed or recorded. The determination will be available on Council's website once confirmed by the panel, and usually within 2 to 3 days of the meeting being held. We'll call the first item, just as a matter of record, we have the, we're doing 58A Algernon Street first, 206 Railway Parade, Kogarah, then 37 Endeavour Street, Sans Souci, 34 Montgomery Street, Kogarah, and 219 Terry Street, Connells Point. So we'll start with 58A Algernon Street, and I will call to the stand Cameron Jones, I think, and Giannis is coming at the same time. So it's up to you who'd like to lead off.
Thank you, panel. Look, we feel as though we've worked fairly well with council on this application. We've worked well with neighbours. We've taken on board what neighbours have said and made the appropriate amendments to the application. The report is well founded, well written, and we're accepting of the conditions. So we're really here as the owner and the architect just to answer any questions that the panel may have.
Well, before I ask the other panel members what their questions are, I might lead off because we've had some discussions, and I think our discussions are really very much around the pool area that's been subject to a previous consent. But I will say that we have some concerns about the changes to the levels and the treatment of the rock outcrop on that site. So I'll just put that on the table and then perhaps ask some of the other panel members if they have any specific questions in that regard.
Fiona Prodromou, Community Representative. I just had some questions regarding the rock outcrop and the conceptual landscape drawings. Can I just first ask, is there a detailed landscape plan or is it just the conceptual one that we have before us?
Sorry, the landscape plan for you that was submitted with the DA. Yep, that's the plan that was submitted as part of the suite of documents.
Okay, it's just that when out on site, and we got a copy of the survey from the previous DA, the drawings, the architectural drawings and landscape drawings indicate that the rock is recessed from that rear fence with the neighbouring property, but it's actually a lot closer in when you're actually standing physically out there. There may be some.
So the rock is identified by the surveyor on the survey plan. You're saying it's not where the surveyor is saying it is, or?
Yeah, it was just a bit odd. It just seemed a lot closer to the back fence.
We did actually specifically ask the surveyor to position that rock for us on site.
Okay.
Because there's two rocks, you might know.
Yeah.
There's a smaller rock on top of a larger platform rock. Yeah.
So on the landscape drawing, there's a reference and an arrow, and it says floating rock to be removed. Is that removing just the top portion, the bit that's cantilevering over the lower?
Okay, so there's a smaller rock on the top of the larger rock, which is towards the house.
Yes.
That piece there is going, and the idea there is that we can then run a little bit of a flat bar fence around the front of that rock and create a sort of a level area for the kids down in that front space. Yep.
Is it likely that you'll get turf to grow there though? Like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, our landscape architect is more than comfortable with the space down there. You know, we acknowledge the fact that we're sort of southeast facing and all of that, but there's more than appropriate species that we can put down there to populate that space.
Okay.
How much depth of soil are you planning to put on top of the rock?
Won't be much, it'll mainly be grass, so it's probably only like 300 millimetres, and it might be just a little bit of Corten or something that we run around the edge of that there.
And this has an edging on it as well?
Yes, Corten.
Does it have a balustrade?
Yes, it does.
So it's a balustraded lawn area on top of the rock.
Yes.
Can you help us a little bit with, you've got a previous approval, which we've got plans of here, but what you're seeking approval for seems to be in the same footprint, although it is at a different level.
Right.
Are you giving up your previous approval, and you're seeking this new design for that area, or how does that all work?
Well, I don't think the previous approval will be given up, but the proposal is not to build that unless, obviously, if we get approval for this proposal. So this pool has moved further back away from the rock than the previously approved pool. not by much, only by about a metre or so, but it is slightly further back towards the house, but it's also slightly higher. So we moved it back, but we moved it up to relate better to the ground floor of the home. So at this stage, the proposal was, and the history of the proposal here is that we looked at doing the pool first as a separate DA in 2021. That was lodged with the intention of doing an alteration addition to the existing house. We started to look into the alteration additions to the existing house. As you guys would be well aware, the panel would be well aware, the cost of building these days is such that we were advised that it's actually cheaper to do a new home than the extensive alteration additions to the home. So we kind of had to do a 180 degree and then replan as a new home. And then we saw the opportunity to incorporate the pool a little better with the current design. So thus was the idea that we slide it back and slightly raise it up and then join it in with the whole application.
If you get approval for this, there's a chance of a conflict between the two DAs.
If we got approval for this, we would renege on the previous DA.
So you'll surrender.
Yes.
Yeah, I had some questions. The report refers to some clauses in the LEP, Singapore Shore Scenic Protection Area. I was just wondering what sort of treatment you're proposing to the external face of the pool that will be facing the water.
At the undercroft of the pool area,
Sorry?
at the undercroft,
No, I'm talking about the actual. Isn't there a wall to the pool that will be facing the? What's the best site for them?
Sort of near sort of face of
Yep.
the
yeah, I mean, the idea was that
Southern.
that would potentially be planted out. So that facade there that you can see is the pool edge. So that would be a rendered finish, and then there'd be undercroft planting in and around that back area there. We want to screen the supports of the pool in under that space there.
Right. And what sort of planting is that?
You'll have to excuse me because my landscape architect uses all the botanic names, and I usually use the previous, but they are all noted on the landscape concept plan.
I had a bit of trouble following the plans. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just if it's proposing to plant out the undercroft, I just would wonder what sort of species and whether they actually grow there.
Well, they're pretty.
The previous approval is a bit more descriptive in and around the area. It describes it as battered garden beds to soften the length of the wall on the overhang with large palm and foliage planting.
Yeah, I think the difficulty we have is that the planting schedule doesn't actually identify the mature heights of the species that have been selected. So I think, Julie, that's maybe why.
And then you've got kind of seeing this photo, so there's the rock out rock closest to. Sorry. Oh, sorry. So there's the rock closest to the house, and then there's the rock that's quite close to the house in front. That so that the rock close to the house is that what's happening to that?
It's been demolished.
Being
Being
demolished. Okay.
Yep.
And then the rock closest to the house below, you're going to remove the top section, which you call the floating rock.
The rock below that sort of slopes, if you can imagine, if I'm looking at the water, it's sloping up.
Yeah.
So the high side of that rock is sort of towards the house behind us.
Yeah.
And it tapers back down where the smaller rock is sitting.
Yeah.
So the idea is to remove that smaller rock, and then we're going to put some soil in that area, and we're going to try and level that out as a bit of a sort of grass level space.
And did you ever give any consideration to some sort of like a lighter touch cantilevered pool that could retain that rock?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no, our focus in short was on the larger rock. We didn't see any value in that small rock at all. In fact, we're quite starved for sort of level areas. So Yanni has a couple of young kids, and we're quite starved for space to get those. And we saw this as a really good opportunity to create a little bit of a level space down in front of the pool area there. And again, in talks with the landscape architect down there, and as you can see from the previous application that was approved, we saw that much lesser value, that little sort of top rock than the much larger, the larger rock in front. In fact, if you walked around in front of that larger rock, you'd have seen it's got a really nice undercroft and areas down in front, which the kids love and utilise really frequently. So that was more of the focus, was the larger rock than the small rock.
Okay, that's the
So I can probably say to you that we are concerned about the cap of the rock. So is there any, and I know you want to alter that area and fence it off, is there any, would you consider not altering that major rock formation as part of this application?
Well, I think given we've got the approval to remove that in that space down there at the moment, it's probably certainly the preference from the owner's perspective is that we do remove that upper rock. Again, we would see far more value in retaining the larger rock at the front of the smaller rock at the rear. Certainly our appetite is to remove that smaller rock and create that sort of level grass area in that undercroft area of the pool there.
Okay, that's probably answered my questions on that though. Any others?
Sorry. The view from the public space, the water, the new pool is 1.3 metres higher than the previous approval. There's going to be quite a facade that's viewable from the public space. What's the surface treatment proposed for that?
Facade facing the water.
Yes.
Yeah, so that edge of the pool would be a rendered finish, and we propose to do it in a fairly dark recessive colour. And the idea is that we're going to grow plants up from the base of that, so that foliage, being the palms and everything else, would cover the whole base. So we want to green that whole space out in under the back of that area there.
sorry. I used to do a lot of work in Mossman. I know it's not Mossman, but there was an issue there with sloping sites. Sometimes people do like a sandstone facade. Is that something that would be anathema to you?
Well, I think, again, from a budget perspective for us, the fact that we're going to grow it out and the idea is that we completely cover that with planting and the palms. It's a lot of money to spend on sandstone facing, for that front edge of the pool. It's not going to, we don't believe it'll be seen from anywhere, and it's not really visual because of the narrow corridor and the angle from the water. I think for us, we'd rather do a really basic recessive colour dark finish on there and then use the foliage to screen that whole face.
Is there a condition about that?
I don't believe there is.
Right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I haven't been provided with, but is there a site survey?
Is there a?
Survey of the site?
Yes, there is. Yeah, it would have been in the suite.
It's in the bundle?
Lodged. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's all our questions. And that has been very helpful. Thank you for that. So we'll take that on board and consider our options, I suppose, in that regard. Do you have any other points? I understand where you're coming from and in relation to the fact that you have an existing consent. So we'll take it from there.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank
Thanks
you.
very much. Thank you for coming. The second application that we're dealing with today is 206 Railway Parade, which is the modification of development consent DA 220-0236 demolition works and consolidation. The modification include internal and external changes. We have we don't have the speaker on that one. No, good, thank you. Then we'll move to 37 Endeavour Street. Yes, we do. 37 Endeavour Street, Sans Souci, reinstatement of the pitch tile roof, external facade and fenestration, which has been removed. We have a speaker in relation to this. This is Mike Ramundo, is it?
Good afternoon, panel members, and chair and council. First of all, I'd like to obviously thank council for the effort that they've put in to assessing the application. I note that there's a lot of hard work in relation to compiling additional information for the assessment of this application. I've read the assessment report, which I believe is a solid, reasonable report, and the conditions of consent, and raise no concerns with its content whatsoever. So I'm here. If the panel has any concerns or questions, I'm happy to answer them as best as I can. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just refer to the panel and see if they've got any questions on this matter. No, I think it was reasonably straightforward from the information that's provided to us, so I don't think we have anything specific to ask you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, council. Thank you. Yes.
The next item that we have registered speaker for is DA 223-015629 Terry Street, Connells Point. Demolition, alterations and additions to a single-storey heritage listing dwelling, house and construction of a carport forward of the garage. And I have a speaker, Stephanie Kiowski, is it? Online, sorry, you're online. Stephanie, are you there? She looks like her name is up there.
Oh, my apologies. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. I just had a bit of technical difficulties just for a moment.
No, that's all right. These things happen. You just, if you'd like to address us, and we may have some questions for you after your presentation.
Yeah, perfect. So we're trying to do obviously an alteration and addition to 219 Terry Street, Connells Point, which is also in heritage area. We have support from pretty much everybody within council minus the landscaping. And we've been working very hard with the heritage sector of Georges River to make this happen. And I'm happy to have a chat with anybody if they have any questions. I am aware that there was a site visit today to go through it all. And yeah, so if there's any questions, happy to assist in any way.
Thank you. I will just refer to the panel, and we will have some questions for you. So, can we at the moment? No questions? No. Right. We do have in the site visit today, though. While I have you, we did have some concern about the loss of the tree just behind the original, outdoor toilet on the site, and we were wondering if there's any mitigation measures that could be taken to conserve that tree from your perspective.
Well, look, but prior to us actually lodging an application for an alteration addition, we lodged another application for immediate removal of that tree because we have videos of huge branches falling down because it's really close to the existing house. We have attempted to maintain it, but based on, I guess, conversations that we've been having with our heritage consultant and council's heritage consultant, because he's council's heritage consultant had given us a lot of, I guess, reviews and responses, and we actually went along with his recommendations to make this, I guess, happen. Now I am aware there's 20 odd trees on site. We're happy to plant another, 5, 10, whatever trees you need, other plants elsewhere to, I guess, accommodate that removal. We just don't want it that close to the house. That's pretty much it. And obviously we've attempted to maintain the deep soil of the existing building footprint. That's why we maintained the alterations within the paved area that's currently existing. So we haven't removed any other turf and whatnot. And we're maintaining all trees minus the fact of that one itself, which is near the toilet that you're talking about.
Sorry, thank you. I didn't have my speaker on. Thank you. I think that's been useful, and we appreciate your presenting to us today. So thank you. We will then go into camera and discuss these matters. So thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
I will now formally close the meeting.